Hello everyone, Pallytime here. Welcome back to Heroes of the Storm. We are on the PTR today because they just dropped a ton of new content, and by just, I mean it was actually yesterday, so this video is super late. But what I'm gonna do is my very boring first impressions look at the talents for Dehaka. I'm going to try to come up with a few builds that may fit a variety of situations. It's going to be very slow. It's going to be very methodical. I'm going to talk a lot, and we're going to be in tribe mode the whole time. So if that doesn't seem like something you're interested in, don't worry. No one is forcing you to watch this video, and I certainly don't want you to waste your time doing something you don't enjoy. But for those of you that are interested in knowing my opinions and my first impressions and some builds that I may be running in the future, this is a good place to start. Now, I will be doing some, just viewer matches, basically. For those of you that don't know, if you queue for a quick match on the PTR, with the new character, you're looking at like a 25-minute wait, and I'm not about to do that. So I'll get some viewer matches going on later today, and we'll test these builds out versus some actual players. But for right now, we're going into try mode, and we're going to take a look at what Dehaka brings to the table. Okay, so this is Dehaka in the game by default, and as you can see, he's a little roughed up. He has 4 arms. One of them is down here and it's missing. He has a big arm up here that's missing. And one of the things that I like about him is that as you pick talents throughout the game, let's reset talents and his arms just go away. But as you pick talents, he starts to grow back his appendages, which, is a small little detail, but, Zerg are all about evolving, and that kind of fits in with that really, really well. I really like that. So, Dehaka's abilities. We have Drag. This is a skill shot that seems to be on a little bit of a delay, like the Artanis switch position ability used to be. They went back and they improved the responsiveness on this, or on that. But what this ability is going to do, what Drag is going to do, very short skill shot, as you can see. But if we're able to land it on a hero, we're going to drag them to us, and then for a very short amount of time, we're going to be able to reposition these guys. I'm going to toggle off cooldowns just so you can see it a little bit better. So again, we can grab onto Arthas here and drag him to wherever our heart desires. Now again, on the button press, I'm going to hit it really fucking loud. So hopefully I have the sync lined up right on this video, but here you go. Significant delay from when the projectile goes out. So keep that in mind. Your W ability is Dark Swarm. You're going to deal AoE damage around you to nearby enemies for 3 seconds and become able to move through units. So if you ever get body blocked, so for instance, as you can see, we can't really move in here. All of a sudden, you cast your W, and it doesn't matter where you go. This is really, really good for survivability and something you may not notice when you first start playing the character. But his W ability, I mentioned this today on stream, his W ability feels a lot like Skarner, feels a lot like a Mumu, feels a lot like Udyr and Phoenix Stance from League of Legends. And these are all characters that I played extensively over my years in that game. And it feels really good to have that kind of transition over to Heroes of the Storm, but also fit into a kit. Like, it doesn't seem like it's just tacked on. It seems like it's an essential part of this playstyle. And I really, really like that. His E ability is called Burrow. And what this is going to do is simply take you underground. That's it. Nothing special. And you may be wondering, how does this become useful? Well, essentially slow-moving projectiles like Pyroblast. If that was coming towards you, you just burrow underground and you completely avoid it. If you see a Tyrande stun coming in, you burrow underground and you completely avoid it. If you see the Hunt coming in, again, you're starting to see a similar trend. Triple tap. All kinds of heroics can be avoided by this mechanic in general. And he does have some talents that buff the effects of this ability, but generally speaking, I don't think this is going to be a very big focus for most Dehaka builds. It's really good utility and definitely has its purpose in his kit. It just seems like a really... he can't burrow around while he's doing this. Like roaches can in StarCraft 2. You can't burrow down and then move around the map. You're essentially stuck in one location. And while I do have cooldowns toggled off, it is worth mentioning that this is a 20-second cooldown by default. So incredibly situational. It will be, I think, difficult to get value out of this. Just my first impression. But once we, you know, as the community decides, you know, what the appropriate way to use this spell is going to be, other than just keeping yourself alive, then, you know, maybe I'll like it a little bit more. There is some stuff you can do with it, though. So let's go ahead and take some damage, and then I'll talk about our trait. Our trait is Essence Collection. What it does is whenever anything dies around you, whenever you kill an enemy minion or a hero, I don't believe buildings count because, you know, Zergs are all about biomass and stuff. But whenever something dies nearby, you're going to start to collect essence. And you can see down here at the bottom, I have 50 stacks of this essence. Now, what I could do with this is activate it at any time. It does cap out at 50. But I can activate it if I have 12 stacks or 20 stacks. You know, I don't have to wait until 50. And we'll get a pretty considerable heal when I activate it. You can see just about my full health bar coming back from this essence collection. And again, we would get more essence back by walking in and AoEing down this minion wave and slowly starting to stack that back up, which is really, really strong throughout every point in the game. It's good for early game like sustain, and it's great for just being a tank in the late game. Really, really cool talent. I like that it makes you farm stacks, but it doesn't feel as punishing as Diablo's Black Soul Gem because you can farm these stacks really, really quickly. At least in my experience, I've been able to. Now, this does have some synergy with Burrow. So again, let's all use our imagination here because I do not have 50 stacks, but let's go ahead and assume that I do. As we're moving in and we're taking some damage from the enemy team, all of a sudden we can burrow and then use our essence collection while we're underground just to get that significant regen going and keeping ourselves safe. Your W ability also has some synergy with your burrow as well. You can cast your W ability, start to deal that AoE damage, and then dive underground, making yourself immune to anything that the enemy team can do to you, while still being a pretty significant damage source in that area. So there you go, those are his basic skills, those are his basic synergies that I've been able to find. I've played him in an AI game, I've played him in 3 viewer games, and I've gone into try-match before. So that's the basics, or that's the basis of all of my assumptions. Now, as we continue to play this character, I'm sure more depth will, you know, surface, and we'll be able to understand him a little bit more. But I do love the shit out of his kit. I think he's an amazing character. I really, really like his playstyle. One of the coolest aspects of his kit is the Brush Stalker. This is his mount ability. He does not have a traditional mount, so he's joining the likes of Abathur and Falstad and Brightwing in that regard. He can traverse anywhere on a map, and it's going to seem really underwhelming here. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to seem so lame if this is the first time you've seen Dehaka. If I hit Z, I can burrow to any bush. There's only one bush in try mode, so you don't get too much of a, you know, you don't really get the full gravity of how fucking incredible this is. But here you go. I can burrow from here to over there, and I can do that from anywhere, at any time. There is that small channeling time, but there's talents that can decrease that significantly. Let's go ahead and toggle off our cooldowns. And, yeah, basically, you can combo this with burrow as well. So let's say you're taking a lot of damage. Oh no, what are you gonna do? You hit your W, you hit your trait, you burrow underground, and then start spamming your mount to a bush. That has saved me so many times, and it feels so rewarding. And while Dehaka may not be the tankiest of tanks in just a straight up fight, his elusiveness, his slipperiness, that allows him to leave these fights and then fully stack up back to full health instantly while pushing other lanes, while generating XP for his team, is just so strong, and I love it. I love it. So let's look at talents. That was your introduction, and it took fucking forever. I'm sorry. I'm really passionate about this character already, and I've just got my hands on him. I love his kit. So we have Enduring Swarm. Dark Swarm reduces damage from abilities. You're only going to pick this up at level 1 if you're going against multiple mages on the enemy team. So Kilthas, Jaina, Li Ming, maybe a mage Falstad, maybe Azmodan. You guys know what mages are by this point. You're going to want to pick this up at level 1 if you are going against that. Increased damage to minions and mercenaries. If you want more of a split push play style, which is Kit definitely could excel at, this is going to be the talent for you. Now, these two talents at level 1 are pretty interesting. They basically work the same way. I'm just going to go with tissue regeneration because it's the one I've had the most experience with. So how it works is, you can see on the left side, just above my portrait now, we have this icon. And this icon is a DNA strand that is slowly filling up. This is going to increase whenever we gain essence. Now, it says the tooltip is a little confusing. Collecting 50 essence permanently increases your health regeneration by 5 up to 50. So this gives off the impression that you need to get 50 essence at one time, which again is your trait, and you can track the number of essence you have down there. But this quite simply is not the case. For instance, right now I could use my essence. I had 30 there, and as we continue to gather this up, you are going to see the DNA strand on the left, just to the right of the portrait, is going to continue to fill. So you do not have to stack your essence up to 50 in order to gain this benefit. You just basically have to continue to gain essence. And this is a way to really get a strong foundation going in the early game. If you focus on pushing lanes in the early game, you will become significantly tankier. You will have a ton more regen and a ton more sustain. And remember, when you're this slippery, we can get around the map and do whatever you want at any time. This is a very, very valuable talent. I really, really like it. I have also tried the movement speed, but I have definitely felt the survivability loss from not having tissue regeneration. So this is the talent that I would suggest at level 1 in most circumstances. At level 4, we have several burrow talents as well as more essence talents. We have burrow grants stealth. Burrow grants a knockback as well. This one's weird. This one's really weird. So what it does, if you pick up the knockback, you're going to burrow underground, and when you erupt, you're just going to kind of move people back. Keep in mind, burrow has a 20-second cooldown. We do have them reduced right now. But this knockback, I was looking at this and I was trying to fucking understand how you would use this in a team fight reliably ever, because it doesn't seem to do much. But it was explained to me that if you're trying to escape, if there's people sitting there camping your burrow, you can burrow underground, pop up, they're going to be knocked back, and you can immediately brush stalk, which is the worst name ever, to a bush anywhere on the map. Again, it doesn't have to be nearby, so it would look something like this. So it does potentially increase your survivability, but let's just say I'm not a fan of this at all. And the stealth is pretty self-explanatory. When you dive underground, you're going to get stealth. This is a 5-second stealth, but it starts right as the ability goes. So you are using some of that stealth time while you're just underground, but this does allow you to juke around just a little bit. I haven't seen it myself, but I would assume that you're a pretty big portrait. You know, so while you're in stealth, this glimmer is going to be gigantic. So, you know, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. Right now, I'm suggesting that if you want to try Dehaka, you stick with these essence talents down here at the bottom. So we have the one who collects, which is the best name ever for a talent. Increases essence collection from minions by 50%. So by default, let's go ahead and test some numbers here. I believe we only get one more essence per kill. We're at 8 right now, 9. Looks like I'm just gaining essence passively, but I believe every minion is giving me 2. That's what I think. That's what I think. So if we pick this up, I believe every minion will then give me 3. And that is what it looks like, yeah. So this just makes it a little bit faster to stack up your essences. Makes it faster to get your heal back, your self-heal, which is crucial for his playstyle. And it also helps you stack up your health regen significantly faster from your level 1 talent. So these two actually synergize really, really well together from a kind of snowball perspective. If you want to have more health regen earlier in the game, these two talents are going to combo incredibly well together. Also at level 4, there is basically the same talent, but for hero kills as well. Increases the essence gained from takedowns by 150%. So it just basically means that whenever you kill someone, you're going to get significantly more essence than without the talent. But minion waves are always there. They are prevalent. They are a staple of what's going to be happening throughout the entirety of a match. So quite frankly, if you want more stacks, I think it's a lot more reliable to get the kills off of minions. At level 7, basic attacks reduce the drag cooldown by 1.5 seconds. It is a battle momentum specifically for drag. And I have to say, if you are really into the drag ability, it is fantastic. You can just throw drags off like crazy. Then we have increased drag duration by 0.5 seconds, which would increase your drag to, what is it, 2.25? Which is a long time. That's a long time. But the one I like the most here is the symbiosis. This is going to reduce the cooldown of your W ability every time you deal damage to a hero. So in our first two talents, we already got a ton of sustain, and then symbiosis, or however you pronounce it, I'm probably doing it wrong, is basically I'm not reducing our cooldowns or anything, but you can see just how fast this talent actually allows you to get your W ability off cooldown. And as your main damage source, this is going to be really, really effective in team fights. Also keep in mind that throughout the game so far, we have been doing nothing but increasing our survivability. So while this may be a very close quarters combat spell, we're able to use it a lot more effectively because we have all of this healing and all of this regen in our build from our early game talents. So there's some synergy there. You increase your sustain and the early levels, and then you can deal more damage at level 7 with this ability. And as you can see, it doesn't have much of a cooldown at all, and we're only fighting one hero here. We're actually able to rip into Arthas pretty well. He has some pretty high damage output if you build him properly for it. He can also be built for utility with these grab talents, but I'm just giving you my opinions on which builds I think are going to be successful. There is always a little bit of wiggle room for those niche players who like to, you know, build for utility, build in different ways, and there's nothing wrong with that. So at level 10, we have Isolation and Adaptation. By far, I think Isolation is the better ultimate. Just based off of my first impressions, I don't like Adaptation at all. I don't like it at all. It seems way too inconsistent. But I'll explain why shortly. So Isolation, it's going to be hard to illustrate what it does here, but it's incredibly strong in team fights if you're able to land it on key targets. So again, another reason why we have so much sustain and damage output in our kit is so we can push into an enemy team's front line and get to these key targets for Isolation. So what it does, you launch a biomass that hits the first enemy hero, dealing 474 damage. This is at level 22, so it's going to be significantly lower at level 10. Silencing and slowing them by 30% for 3 seconds. That is a 3-second silence. It is a skill shot, and it's very hard to land, and I'll show you that momentarily. Only allows them to see a very short distance for 6 seconds. The other thing it doesn't tell you is that this will completely blind the target from their fucking allies. They can't see the allies on their team. It's essentially a Nocturne ultimate, if you guys are familiar with League of Legends, but on a skill shot basis and not a global range. So this is what it looks like. We're going to just fire it off. It's going to put a little thing on Arthas' head, and this means that he's going to be blind. I'll toggle cooldowns and fire it one more time so you can see it. And this is also a silence. So imagine, if you will, you're fighting a Lieutenant Morales and you're able to get to the back line with all of your sustain that you have, and then you're firing this out on Morales. That's a 3-second silence on her, where she's not going to be able to do anything. And on top of that, it's going to be incredibly difficult for her to even know where her allies are. That is very, very strong. If we go back and take a look at Adaptation, I need to refresh talents, refresh forts. There we go. If we go back and look at Adaptation, what it does sounds really, really good with this kind of build mentality. So, Adaptation, after 5 seconds, you're going to heal for 60% of the damage you took over the period of the 5 seconds, which sounds great. Let me show you what's wrong with it. Hey, Arthas, hit me. Hey, I'm going to pop Adaptation. Hey, Arthas, you want to... Oh, here we go. Now they're hitting me. I got basically dick off of Adaptation healing. For instance, here's our trait. That's not our ultimate, that's our trait. And adaptation is good if you are caught out and the enemy team is going to focus you. Adaptation is good if you happen to only be the only warrior on your team, which I don't think Dehaka is a very good solo warrior, but we can talk about that in a little bit. Adaptation is good if you know someone is going to focus fire you. But quite frankly, you never know someone is going to focus fire you. It's like the priority Chen mentality. Chen is fucking incredible when everyone attacks him for no reason. But you have no, like, there's no security in that fact. There's no guarantee that people are going to attack you for no reason. Granted, Hardened Shield kind of has the same mentality. You have to use it at the right times. And I will say that you can get a ton of healing out of adaptation if you use it at the right time. And again, it does have synergy with the rest of your kit. So let's go take some damage, boys. Let's go ahead, pop our ultimate. Yeah, look at it. It gives you that dot or that heal over time indicator. Shows you how much you're going to get healed. Then you have your trait that you can pop as well. You can dive underground. You can let things go away. It is a survivability increase in the right situations. And I would recommend it if you're a solo warrior. But oftentimes you should not be a solo warrior on Dehaka. So just bear that in mind. I'm not crazy about the talent. I'm not a big fan of the talent. I think that isolation is significantly better in a team fight setting and can make a lot more plays happen, because you're essentially taking someone that feels secure in the middle of a 5-man team fight and turning that around completely, making them completely ineffective for 3 seconds. Now, it is worth mentioning that isolation has a significant delay on it, just like we had with our Q ability with grab, and I'll try to show that as well. So we're going to put cooldowns back on, and we're going to try to land this on Arthas. Keep in mind, Arthas isn't going to be moving a lot. Here's the hard key press. Look at that delay. That's crazy. It's a slow projectile in the first place, but there's also a wind-up animation for it, which makes it really, really hard to land. Really, really hard to land. So keep that in mind when you are picking talents. At level 13, I don't like any of these. None of these are like spectacular in any way, and I'm just kind of like meh in regards to all of them. So Swift Pursuit, increase your movement speed by 20% while in a bush, and having it for 2 seconds after. So when you walk into a bush, which there's only one on this map, so it's not going to seem that spectacular. Woo! Yeah, movement speed increase, and now it's gone. You could get Furious Stalker at level 13. Bush Stalker increases your movement speed by 60%, decaying over 3 seconds. So that is decaying from the moment it happens. So here we go. We're burrowing, and movement speed is now, and then yeah, it would be gone by now. I mean, I could just show you these talents rather than trying to illustrate them. Let's go ahead and reduce our cooldowns. I'm fast now. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, it's not, I don't get it, I guess. More importantly, why would you take this talent? Let's think about this. Let's do some critical thinking here. We could get this movement speed that is based on a 40-second cooldown, or we could get Swift Pursuit, which is based on me just walking into a bush anyway. Your mount, your fucking travel can only be used in a bush. So you would get this regardless. You would get Swift Pursuit regardless without having to use the cooldown. And if you do use the cooldown to get into a bush, you're still getting the 20% movement speed. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Hanga said that it's all about the ganks, man. But let's show the other talent off first, shall we? Let's show the other talent off first. This is Swift Pursuit. This is the movement speed in a bush. Hey, look at me. Oh, hey, that sprint's back. All right, it's back again. Oh, wait, we need to burrow? Here's the movement speed again. Look at that. Like, I know it's not 60%, and I know that 60% doesn't even last for very long because it decays over 30 seconds. Or excuse me, over 3 seconds. But I just don't see the point of that talent when at the level range, when at level 13, it's a 40-second cooldown on that burrow. You can decrease that cooldown significantly at level 20, and that is my favorite talent at level 20, but it just doesn't seem worth it. It really doesn't. At least to me. And then, at level 13, the talent I would probably recommend in most cases reduces the duration of silent stuns, slows, and roots against your hero while Dark Storm is active. Again, this is your W ability. So let's go ahead, get all of our talents back. This is really good in this particular build because we're already getting the Symbiosis, which reduces the cooldown. Remember, it reduces the cooldown every single time this hits a hero. So if we're hitting 2 heroes with this, boom, we have no cooldown on our W. And while we're doing this, it's going to allow us to stick to targets significantly better because they can't really crowd control us that much. It's relentless, but it's relentless tied to an ability that we can reduce the cooldown of, so it seems pretty good to me. Even against teams that don't have a ton of crowd control, what little crowd control they do have, like maybe a Nova pinning shot, or, well, Jaina slows are prominent, but you know what I'm saying. Even if it's not like hard CC, even if it's not a mosh pit or something, this is still going to increase your kill potential in a significant way. So at level 16, here we go. This is a difficult tier for me as well. So yeah, paralyzing enzymes, it's going to drag and slow enemies. Oh, excuse me. Drag is going to slow enemies. Let's clarify that. Let's not get it twisted. By 50% for 2 seconds after the ability ends. So this is going to increase your kill potential pretty significantly on targets like this, because you can drag W, get around them, and then they're going to be slowed, which is strong. But, you know, it's okay. Or, let's go through our talents one more time. I'm going to get really fast at this because I'm going to remember where all of them are. You can increase the range on drag, which with this particular build that doesn't have a ton of movement speed increases, I think the extra range, it's a 20% range on your Q ability. 20% increase on your Q ability. With this particular build that doesn't have movement speed, it does become significantly harder to land grab. So I think this can help out a ton. And this, I think, is the one that I prefer the most. The burrow heal is nice, and it can definitely save you. If you were playing a little bit more selfishly, if you were looking out for number 1, or maybe you were like the solo tank again in that scenario, you could definitely get a lot of healing out of burrow. I mean, at level 23, it's 750 health. Again on a 20-second cooldown, but again, you can combo that with your passive, with your trait rather, and you can also combo that with adaptation if you did pick that up as well. So I think it does have its place, but I think in this particular build, we're going to be able to make more plays happen with this drag increase, with just the increased range. You are counting on your team to come in and combo off of that, like CC the target, deal damage to the target, but I think it's pretty good. This combo, this talent would also be really good comboed with the level 7 talent for the reduced cooldown. So this is essentially battle momentum for your grab. I mean, if you are all about grab, if grab is what you want to do, then I think these two talents work really, really well together. Increased range means you're going to be able to land it significantly more often, and the reduced cooldown basically means you can just chain someone in this shit and keep them crowd controlled for days. Man, that ultimate is so hard to land. You have to predict so much. You know, and that the fact that there's such a huge delay on isolation may just make adaptation that more desirable. Who knows? So, isolation splashes to nearby heroes is fantastic fucking utility. I don't know how big the splash area I don't know how big the splash area is though, and I don't think I'm going to be able to show that in try mode at all. I mean, I can pick up the talent, I can reduce my cooldowns. But I'm just assuming that we're not going to get really much of a clear indication. So this could be incredible or it could be useless. Honestly, I don't know. And that's something we can test in future videos for sure. The one I've been going with and I've had massive amounts of success with, and has really, I've fallen in love with it. I think it's fantastic. The one I've been going with is the Apex Predator. It reduces the cooldown on Brush Stalker by 30 seconds and reduces the cast time by 5 seconds. So by default, we don't actually know what the cast time is. It doesn't tell you. But this is the burrow by default. Well, I'll say that's a second, maybe a second and a half. And now all of a sudden we can get Apex Predator, and I'm gonna turn cooldowns off. There's no cooldown reduction going on. This is just standard cooldowns. And we can burrow every 10 seconds. So imagine, if you will, on a map that is gigantic, like let's say the Garden Terror map. I was using this on Tomb of the Spider Queen with some fantastic success. You could cut off people that are running away, come up behind them, and take them down. If you are dying up top, you can quickly hop into a burrow, heal yourself with your trait, and then dig across the map before they can kill you, because you just got a ton of healing from all of that. This allows you to split push like absolute craziness. It's ridiculous the amount of split pushing you can do with this. And it's just a great way to survive team fights, period. Even though Dehaka may not be the tankiest target in the whole world, his elusiveness, his survivability in those situations, just because of this mobility, I think is amazing. And I've used this talent a lot in all of my practices, and I absolutely love it. It is 100% the Pallytime playstyle. I love that talent. It is so good. And then the other option at level 20 would be the Hardened Shield, which is very straightforward. Plenty of warriors have that, and it just reduces the damage you take by 75%. Well, other than just not taking more damage, it's worth mentioning that if you take Hardened Shield, you're not going to be healing as much from adaptation if they overlap. So you have to pop adaptation first and get that health regen going, and then pop Hardened Shield to kind of make sure that the health regen just doesn't go away, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They don't work well together when they're stacked, but they worked well together when you stagger them a little bit. It increases his survivability quite a bit. Just straight up tankiness survivability if you're the solo warrior. The upgrade for adaptation just increases the healing amount. I mean, nothing too special, nothing too drastic there. So this is my build for Dehaka that I recommend you try out if you're jumping into the character for the first time. I talked about all the talents though, so I'm sure you can come up with some combinations for yourself. And I have a pretty decent success rate with picking talents that are pretty close to the ones that stick in the meta. So we'll see if I can keep that success rate going. I think this one is pretty prominent. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. He definitely has room to provide a utility role with his talents, which is just, you know, the CC. You have this amazing silence, just absolutely incredible silence. You have grab, you have burrow to help yourself stay alive in these situations. I mean, look how fast that heals. It's insane. He has talents that could let him fill the solo warrior role, although I don't think he would be incredibly good at it. And then he has talents that let him provide global pressure, constantly doing something. And I think it's really exciting. And I cannot wait to see how he fits into the game. I am really, really, really excited about this character, and I hope you guys can tell. So thank you all for watching today's video. I know this isn't everyone's cup of tea. 34 minutes of me talking about talents. Like, I know everyone's not into that. But for those of you that do enjoy it, I hope you enjoyed this one as well. You can let me know by hitting that thumbs up button and saying kind things in the comments. I have not been happy with the rate that content has been going out on my channel at all, but I've been dealing with a lot of stuff in my personal life. My dad's been in and out of the hospital, and you guys already know the struggle trying to get a place to live. It's been a handful, but I appreciate you guys being patient with me. I appreciate all the ongoing support. I've had nothing but kind outreach on Twitter and things like that. So I just want to let you all know that it's not falling on deaf ears. And I'm gonna try to pick up the pace of content just a little bit. Try to get back into the swing of things. like I was before. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all with some gameplay for Dehaka very soon. Okay, bye.